Hello all, welcome to my channel. In today's video lecture, we will be continuing our significance on algae and we will be discussing specifically about the biological significance of algae in any ecosystem. Now, the first importance or one of the most important significances or critical uses of an algae in any ecosystem is their role as a primary producer. Now, when we say a primary producer, that is the foundation of an ecosystem, or that is the reason any ecosystem can survive. These algae, it could be either in the aquatic or in the terrestrial ecosystems, they are producing certain carbohydrates through the process of photosynthesis, which is useful for the other organisms higher in the food chain. So they are the base of any food chain in an ecosystem. And organisms at the top of the chain will be consumed or will be using up these primary producers, or they usually the herbivores will be eating or consuming the algae, and thus the food chain is progressing. So they are the reason algae are one of the most important primary producers in any ecosystem. Of course, we do have other organisms as well, such as plants or some certain microorganisms, but eukaryotic algae are very important as primary producers. The second importance of algae in an ecosystem is the formation of algal blooms. Now, this is not a beneficial aspect for an ecosystem. It's actually detrimental to the ecosystem because algal blooms are wherein due to eutrophication. Now, eutrophication is where the water body, any aquatic ecosystem, is overly enriched with nutrients. So, when it is filled with nutrients or accumulated with nutrients, it provides a very easy medium for growth of algae, and the algae will bloom over there, or the algae will start growing abundantly in the water body. Now, when the algae start growing abundantly in any water body due to this eutrophication, they give a distinct color to the water body, because we know that algae are pigment producers, so they provide a pigment to the water body. As you can see here, this is Lake Erie, which is having, this is an algal bloom that has been taken in 2011. The picture has been taken in 2011, but this is a lake which is regularly affected. In fact, in 2014, the residents were told not to drink the tap water because the algae had grown over there and it had caused bloom. So algal blooms are a very common problem in many water bodies. Not just aesthetically they cause some kind of nuisance, but they also are harming the other organisms which are living in the water body. Now, how is that? First of all, when the algae grow rapidly or abundantly in the water body, it leads to an unpleasant odor. So that unpleasant odor will cause problems to all the people or humans who are living around. Even the animals which are living around that water body will be affected. Also, there is very high content of suspended organic matter because algae are growing over there. This makes the water unfit for consumption by humans or even animals. Like I told you about the example of Lake Erie, the residents were told not to drink the tap water. So it is completely unfit for consumption there. And the third reason, the most important reason, not just the aesthetic problem, is that they cause a threat to the aquatic life. This could be the flora or the fauna. So the flora and fauna which are living in that aquatic body have to compete with the algae for nutrients, for space, for oxygen, for any kind of growth over there is getting affected due to the bloom of algae. Now, certain algae are known to even produce toxins. Such kind of algal blooms where there is algal toxin being released into the water body, such kind of algal blooms are called as harmful algal blooms. Now, these are some organisms that I have listed out over here, which are very commonly known to be part of algal blooms, or they cause algal blooms. Some of the examples of freshwater forms include Microcystis, Crucoccus, Sinura, Peridinium, Gymnodinium, and some of the marine water forms which cause algal bloom include Trichodesmium and even dinoflagellates such as Pfisteria, which cause red tide. So we'll learn more about these in detail. But this is the problem with algal bloom. So algae are known to cause abundant growth in water bodies leading to algal blooms. And this is usually common during the warmer months or when the temperature is very apt for the algae to grow. Now, amongst these, like I told you, the important ones are the harmful algal blooms, because there the algae are producing algal toxins, and we have several types of algal toxins. So, the first investigation around this algal toxin and harmful algal blooms was done by Dr. Paul Gorham in 1964 in Canada, and he said that there are algae which not only harm the aquatic life by growing and blocking the sunlight or oxygen or nutrients or space in a water body, but they also produce toxins which are very, very potent and lethal in many cases. So why this happens, we already know. It is because there is a lot of agricultural runoff or some other pollutants which are adding a very good nutrient load to the water body. Due to this, the water bloom or the algal bloom is occurring. But initially, the algal toxins that were isolated were the cyanotoxins. Now, these are naturally produced poisons which are stored in the cells of blue-green algae. But later, we did realize that there are many other algal classes, that is eukaryotic algae, which do release toxins leading to the harmful algal blooms. And again, this could be freshwater or marine water. Most of them are planktonic in nature, but some of them can even be benthic. So we will be focusing mainly on the different types of toxins that are produced. As you can see here, most commonly studied upon are the cyanotoxins, which are produced by some of the species of blue-green algae as listed out over here. And the type of toxin is they can be either hepatotoxic or neurotoxic, and the route of exposure is water. So if someone takes in that water, they will be affected with this toxin. We also have certain other toxins. These are specific examples. I will be telling you about the broad classes in the next few slides. So some other examples of algal toxins include domoic acid, which is produced by Pseudonychia, or we have saxitoxin, which is produced by Alexandrium, brevitoxin produced by Gymnodinium. In fact, brevitoxin produces it's a potent toxin which can even cause hot-cold temperature reversal, and it is usually taken in by organisms or by human beings through food. So the food is the mode of exposure or the route of exposure. Amongst these, Pseudonychia is a diatom, so it causes shellfish poisoning. But there are a lot of risks of exposure. So either by drinking that water or bathing in the contaminated water, or due to recreational activities, or animals which are growing in that water. When we consume such animals, either shellfish or other fishes, that is how human beings are exposed to the toxin. And these are some of the common toxins. There are many, many more, as we will study in the next few slides. So all of these algal toxins can be divided based on their mechanism of action in the human body into neurotoxin, hepatotoxin, and cytotoxin. As the name suggests, neurotoxins are affecting the neural system, or they are affecting some part of the nervous system. Hepatotoxins are mainly toxic to the liver, that is why the prefix is hepato. And cytotoxic, when we say, they are mainly dermatoxins which are affecting the skin. And based on the chemical structure, algal toxins can be divided as cyclic peptides, alkaloids, or lipopolysaccharides, which is being written over here. So these are the broad classification systems based on mechanism of action and chemical structure. But when we combine these two, there are mainly 4 different classes of toxins which are very important to be studied. Now, one thing to remember is that all of these toxins have a range of symptoms. It could be something simple as skin irritation, or fever, sore throat, headache, or if they are neurotoxins, they can even cause very severe effects, such as I told you about brevitoxin. It causes hot, cold temperature reversal, or it can cause paralysis, mild to severe paralysis. So the range of symptoms is plenty, but we will be studying about 4 different classes of toxins in this lecture. The first being hepatotoxic cyclic peptides. Now, this includes microcystins and nodularins, which are the most common class of algal toxins worldwide. They are found in fresh water and even in brackish water. These are usually produced by certain species of blue-green algae such as Anabaena, Microcystis, or Anabaenopsis, Oscillatoria, Nostoc. These organisms are all producing the microcystin. Nodularin is produced by this organism, that is Nodularia. So Nodularia spumigena is the organism which produces nodularin. Others are all producing microcystin. But both of these are combined and put under hepatotoxic cyclic peptides because they are affecting the liver. So it's a liver toxin. The structure is cyclic and peptide in nature, hence the name. And it is usually having a molecular weight of 800 to 1100 Daltons. When I say it is affecting the liver, it causes liver hemorrhage within a few hours. It can also upset the gastrointestinal tract by causing diarrhea and vomiting. So these are the effects of microcystins and nodularins. We next have neurotoxic alkaloids. Now when we say they are neurotoxic. We know that they are affecting the nervous system. And when I say they are alkaloids, they are heterocyclic in nature and they are nitrogenous compounds. So heterocyclic nitrogenous compounds are called as alkaloids. Under this, we have two different types, anatoxin and saxitoxin. Anatoxin again has several subtypes. We have anatoxin A, anatoxin AS, or even homoanatoxin A. So all these are being produced by different species as listed out. For example, anatoxin A is produced by Aphanizomenone or by Oscillatoria, Anabina. So these are the organisms which produce anatoxin. And when there is ingestion of anatoxins, first thing is that it leads to excessive salivation and it also causes muscle paralysis in the respiratory system due to injection of ingestion or consumption of anatoxin. So they are blocking the neurotransmitter. That is why they are neurotoxic in nature. And when they block the neurotransmitter, it causes respiratory muscle paralysis, and that can even lead to death of the person within a few seconds. The second type of neurotoxic alkaloid is saxitoxin, which causes paralytic shellfish poisoning. It is abbreviated as PSP. This is mainly produced by Pfisteria piscicida, by Lyngbya walli, which is a blue-green algae, or Lyngbya majuscula. This again is affecting the neurotransmitter, because of which there is respiratory arrest or paralysis and eventually death of the person. The third type of algal toxins are cytotoxic alkaloids. When I say they are cytotoxic, they are affecting either the skin, in that case we call them as dermatotoxin, or they are affecting other parts of the body such as kidney, spleen. They may even cause mild anorexia, malaise, bloody diarrhea. So those are the effects of ingestion of cylindrospermopsin, which is one type of cytotoxic alkaloid. This is mainly produced by Cylindrospermum, Aphanizomenone and Umezakia. These are the organisms which produce cylindrospermopsin, and this affects various organs of the body such as kidney, spleen, or even affecting the gastrointestinal tract to cause bloody diarrhea or vomiting, etc. Dermatotoxins are another type of cytotoxic alkaloids which are mainly restricted to skin allergies. So they cause dermatitis, and this is produced by Lyngbya, Schizothrix and Oscillatoria species. So these toxins are mainly affecting the skin or skin irritation. The fourth and the last type of toxins, algal toxins, are lipopolysaccharides. Now these are endotoxins and they are the ones involved in allergic response. So they are usually found in the outer membranes of certain blue-green algae, and they examples include Lyngbya and Anacystis, and they cause irritation and allergic response in the body of the human being who is ingesting it. So these are the four different types of algal toxins which are involved in harmful algal bloom. Apart from that, we do have algal blooms as well, where there is no production of toxin, but they are affecting the other flora and fauna which are growing in the aquatic body. And the important aspect of algae as a biological significance is that they are primary producers in any ecosystem. So that is a very important significance of algae. I hope you all have understood both the biological as well as economic importance of algae. Thank you. See you all in the next class.